So, here's a new series of videos where I rank every episode of one of the longest running animated shows of all time, The Simpsons. I've been a huge fan of The Simpsons since I was a kid, and I can not only appreciate the show for the impact it has had on animation, and essentially paving the way for adult cartoons like South Park and BoJack Horseman, but also for how great its golden age was. A variety of memorable layered characters, superb satirical commentaries on popular media, iconic catchphrases and quotes, genuinely heartfelt moments, and of course, hilarious layered comedy. And while the show has dipped in quality, and has yet to live up to its golden age, even the later seasons have had their fair share of good episodes. For this ranking, I'm going to be structuring it slightly differently than usual. With most of my movie rankings, I've done worst to best, which I find much easier in that situation, as the movies don't usually follow continuous stories or character arcs. With TV shows, however, I feel it will be easier to talk about them in order of release date, to feel more coherent. In this case, I will finish off with where I would rank them all. So here's my series ranking every episode of The Simpsons, starting with Simpsons roasting on an open fire manages to be both funny and poignant. Seeing Homer try to avoid spilling the beans about not getting his Christmas bonus, and trying to find a way to provide a good Christmas for the family, shows how devoted he is. And as well as delivering great drama, the episode manages to provide a lot of great laughs without muddying the tone, some of my favourite jokes being at the Christmas play at the beginning. The first episode, and honestly, a really good start. While Bart the Genius isn't quite as poignant as Simpsons roasting on an open fire, it's definitely a lot funnier. Some of my favourite comedic moments in the episode are the game of Scrabble at the beginning, and when the family go to an opera performance, where Homer and Bart make each other, and also Lisa, laugh. And speaking of Homer and Bart, I do like the relationship between them in the episode, and I think it has a relatively realistic edge to it. I also like Bart's character arc in the episode, wanting an opportunity to be seen as a genius, but then finding that he enjoyed his old school life a lot more, and confessing to cheating on the test. Really good episode. Homer's Odyssey is a weird one, because I enjoyed rewatching it, but when it finished, I couldn't really think what made it stand out to me, other than how it is interesting to see Homer facing repercussions for his incompetence. And also Black Smithers, I suppose. The episode has pacing issues. While the stuff with Bart at the beginning has good moments, it also takes up too much time considering the episode isn't about him. And maybe dedicating more time to Homer trying to get his job back, and the way he goes around it, would have been better. The episode does have good jokes, but unlike Simpsons roasting on an open fire, when combined with the serious moments, the tone feels slightly unbalanced here. It's a decent episode, but I don't have too much to say really. There's No Disgrace Like Home is strange to watch after watching so many subsequent episodes and seasons, mostly because of how different the characters are to how they would be in later seasons, especially having Homer be the voice of reason. But it is a good episode, and it is heartfelt that Homer is shown to love his family despite getting angry at them. And the scene at the end when they all shock each other during family therapy is quite funny. Not the most timeless episode of the show, by a landslide, but a good episode in the mindset of subsequent episodes and seasons not yet existing. Bart the General is an interesting episode. While the beginning is fine, the rest is actually quite funny and intriguing. I like the idea of a load of school kids going up against a school bully in the style of war movies, as it reminds me of how much I enjoy when films and TV shows take certain premises and make them work in the style of a movie genre. That's the most I can say really. The war parody concept is funny and intriguing, and it makes the episode as a whole a good one. Moaning Lisa is a good episode, and one that manages to give each of the four main characters a chance to shine. The main plotline involves Lisa being depressed, and while Marge initially tries to tell Lisa to smile regardless of how she feels inside, she ultimately sees the negative side to this, and tells her to be herself, which helps Lisa become happier, along with her learning to express herself through music with the help of musician Bleeding Gums Murphy. Despite being a comedy, much of classic Simpsons can also address more serious themes, and do so with dignity. We also get a fun side plot in which Homer tries to beat Bart in a boxing video game, and they do manage to connect it to the main storyline. Though, I do kind of feel bad for Homer at the end. An episode that successfully balances comedy and drama, as you'd expect more serious classic Simpsons episodes to do. The Call of the Simpsons is a pretty funny episode. It doesn't have the same emotional impact as some of my preferred episodes of this season, or even Moaning Lisa, but it is funny, which is what we go to The Simpsons for really. The plotline about Homer being mistaken for Bigfoot is so ridiculous, but also really funny. From Homer falling in the mud and babbling, to the newspaper headings surrounding Marge's input on the situation, to scientists trying to determine whether he is human or not. I think the funniest joke outside of this, and maybe the funniest in the episode, is when Homer gets the family stranded, and when he can't do shit, his echo accidentally reveals this.
I've murdered us all! I've murdered us all! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Don't! Don't!
It's mostly just a funny episode, which, as I stated, is what we watch The Simpsons for. The Telltale Head is an episode that provides an interesting character arc for Bart, and one that a lot of people will identify with, wanting to look cool, but not turning to criminal activity in order to achieve it. While Bart is known as a bad boy in school, he does also have a moral compass. This episode introduced Dolph, Jimbo and Kearney, and I like that they're not just one-dimensional bullies in the episode, initially showing respect for Bart, only to make fun of him when he expresses doubt about the morality of decapitating the statue of Jebediah Springfield. The episode also features some good jokes, particularly Homer listening to the football game in church, which plays in sync with what Reverend Lovejoy is saying, and the Godfather reference with the head of the Jebediah Springfield statue. Overall, a funny and somewhat relatable episode. Life on the Fast Lane takes a darker edge than a lot of Season 1 episodes, but I think it does it better than Homer's Odyssey, primarily in how the episode does find a balance between dark subject matter and good humour. Marge finds herself becoming interested in a seductive bowling instructor, which puts a strain on her marriage with Homer, although her motivations line up, given how ignorant Homer was on her birthday. Both Marge and Homer get interesting character arcs, with Homer realising he's been a bad husband and trying to change for the better, and Marge realising that, deep down, her heart lies with Homer, and the final scene where Marge chooses Homer is so good. So it's a really good episode, except for Helen Lovejoy's design. My, what weird eyes you have. Homer's Night Out isn't as funny as other episodes, but I still think it's a good episode. I've heard people say the episode is bad because they perceive the concept of a photo of Homer dancing next to another woman finding its way across town, and Marge accusing Homer of objectifying her, ridiculous. But my interpretation is that this is how it leads to its execution of its anti-sexism message. The photo finds its way across town because all the men are attracted to Princess Kashmir, with the photo even being confiscated from some of the men and boys. And I think the reason Marge perceived Homer dancing next to her as objectification was because he put the dollar bill in her G-string. And it does come to the ending in which Homer tries to teach Bart about not objectifying women, and eventually conveys it on stage, consequently reconciling with Marge. While I do consider it a good episode, I do put it lower on the list, just because I don't find it as funny as other episodes. The Creps of Wrath has good jokes, including when Skinner's mother comes to Springfield Elementary and the boys act innocent. I do think it's a bit too mean-spirited to Bart in the way his adoptive parents treat him, even if this was likely intentional. But the outcome at the end is warranted. I also like to assume that Homer's bad back was healed when Bart agreed to go to France. Only reason I can think of him suddenly jumping off the couch like a motherfucker when hearing it. The show's first dive into a whodidit mystery, in which Krusty is arrested, and Bart enlists the help of Lisa to prove his innocence. I like the build-up to the revelation that it was Sideshow Bob. Kelsey Grammer makes his first appearance as Bob, and showcases a great voice performance, both in the speaking and also singing department. And Bob's motivations as to why he did it make a lot of sense, and you feel sorry for him to some extent. I also like when he says to treat kids as equals and not underestimate their intelligence. This is what I'd like to say to all those who say, "But it's for kids," when I'm explaining the problem with bad kids films or shows. Krusty Gets Busted is a really good episode overall, and the first major appearance of one of the best supporting characters on the show. Some Enchanted Evening is a good episode. It's hard not to mention the episode's famous smooth animation, but it's also not the only thing the episode has going for it. I like Homer's character development in the episode, showing that, despite him being a selfish buffoon at times, he does love Marge, and gives her a night at a restaurant and motel. It also manages to have a hilarious ending in which Homer unknowingly helps Mrs. Botts escape the police, and lies about fighting her to the media. But it does also have a heartwarming scene of Marge consoling Homer over his ability to raise 3 kids who can hog-tie a criminal. Good episode. So overall, a good start to the series. Will Season 2 follow suit? Well, let's wait and see.